Guys, I'm getting excited for the National. I'm getting really excited. Do you know what I'm going to do when I get to the National? I'm going to look at some baseball cards. Hey, I have two rare cards to show you. I'm real excited to show these to you. Before I do, I showed this Eddie Moore card on my last video. And I forgot to mention something important about him. Thank you, Chris, for reminding me that Eddie Moore was the last player to hit a bounce home run before they changed the rules, making that a ground rule double. So the last player to hit a bounce home run. Okay, I have two rare cards to show you. You know what? I think I'm going to put on my symbolic white glove for these because they are very scarce and special. And they are the 1905-1906 Lincoln Publications postcards. Now these were of the Philadelphia Athletics. This is Sox Seabold. I have done several videos talking about his story, and I just went over it again on our live for Hobby Palooza that I did with Rick. So I'm not going to bore you with that story again. These are postcard backs. Now we all know that the grading companies often mislabel these. These are probably from 1905 and 1906. You can see that they say 1905 and 1906 on them. Those are probably the 2 years they were published, and not 1906, because the Athletics were in the World Series in 1905. They lost to the Giants, and in 1906 they were not in the World Series at all. So it wouldn't make sense for them to say American League champions in 1906. But it would make sense that they put the years that they were published or distributed. It's important to note that Old Cardboard magazine, one of the most trusted magazines in the old days, an old-time publication, lists these as 1905 and 1906. And since they did not go to the World Series in 1906, it doesn't make sense for them to have been called the American League champions. That said, these are super rare. And they're super awesome. Sox Seabold. And I have this guy. Now this is Michael Powers. They list him as Maurice. And it's unclear why publications and companies like this started calling him Maurice, because his name was Michael. Now, he was known to be a fantastic defensive catcher with a cannon of an arm, and was known to build up pitchers, really be a good game caller, and handled pitchers well. He was not much of a hitter, and he was slow on the base paths. So he, in opening day, at Shibe Field, when they opened the new ballpark, he was catching for Eddie Plank. And he got sick. Wasn't feeling right in his gut. But he toughened it out, and he finished the game. After the game, he collapsed, and they had to rush him to the hospital. Turned out he had a complication in his intestines, had gangrene set in, had a part of it removed, an emergency operation. Started to recover but got sick again. They went back in, the gangrene had spread, and he had another complication with his intestine, and he eventually died. And I believe that makes him the first player to get sick during a game and die. So put a damper on the opening day of Shad Park. Two fantastic rare postcards. I'll just note that I believe these postcards, when they made them for the league champions, were probably distributed, after they won the pennant, either right before or during the World Series. Because I have a Honus Wagner postcard from 1909, and it was mailed, and it has a stamp on the back, and that stamp is October of 1909. And so to assume that it would have been printed in 1910 would have been wrong, because it was clearly printed in 1909. Probably, it makes sense that you would want to sell them while the team's hot, before they lost the World Series, not after, right? And that's another reason that I think these are from 1905 and into the 1906 season as well. Just my thoughts on the matter. That's what I have for you. Thanks for hanging out with me. Oh, and tomorrow night at 6, I'll be on For Collectors with Sammy Thunder and Orlando from A Collector's Dream. We're showing some fantastic cards from other countries. I don't think you want to miss that. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me.